Hey, everybody. We got an amazing show for you today. We talk about the Bored Ape Yacht Club. This is an NFT collection where you buy into it for a couple of Ethereum, and then you get special features and club benefits. Well, we talked to Andrew Steinthal, who is a co-founder of a restaurant review site in New York called The Infatuation, which also purchased Yacht in 2018, by the way. And he got in early on this craze, bought one of these NFTs for $9,000. Now he's sitting on a couple of $100,000 in NFTs of monkeys, of these bored apes. And he explains to us the craze. And it's actually kind of fascinating. It's somewhere between collecting and speculating and gambling and Soho House. Hard to explain, but we get into it. And I think it's a really important subject that we all have to get educated on, because this company is producing hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue already in the first year of its existence from nothing, no investors. So, and then in the second half of the show, our reporter Rachel interviews Nicole DeTommaso. And Nicole is somebody who broke into venture capital recently, working at Harlem VC. And she explained on Twitter how she did it with a pitch deck. So I sent Rachel out to interview her. It's a great interview. You're going to love it, especially if you're thinking, hey, how do I break into venture capital? So stick with us.
This Week in Startups is brought to you by Squarespace. Turn your idea into a new website. Go to squarespace.com/twist for a free trial. When you're ready to launch, use offer code TWIST to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Ourcrowd helps you invest early in pre-IPO companies alongside professional VCs. If you're interested in investing, you can join Ourcrowd for free at ourcrowd.com/twist. And Belay. Get back to doing what only you can do, growing your organization, and leave the rest to Belay. Text TWIST to 55123 for a free ebook to learn how.
Okay, everybody, in our first story, the Bored Ape Yacht Club has gone supernova over the last couple of months, and they are going to do a sale with Sotheby's that could bring in tens of millions of dollars. If you don't know about the Bored Ape Yacht Club, it is an NFT project where people can buy an NFT of an illustration of an ape that has 7 different features, the eyes, the hat, the mouth, earrings, background, all that kind of stuff. And they're kind of like Beanie Babies or other collectibles. They were created by something called the Yuga Labs. And they have been one of the top 5 collections by volume traded on the NFT exchange OpenSea, which we had on the program. And I thought we'd have somebody on who is been part of the club for a while. And if you're part of the club, you basically make it your Twitter avatar, it seems. With us today, Andrew Steinthal. Did I get it right, Andrew?
You nailed it.
Okay. So you're the co-founder of restaurant review site, The Infatuation?
Correct.
And you purchased Yacht in 2018. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Who owned that? Was that from Google you bought it, or somebody had it in between Google?
No, we acquired that directly from Google.
So you joined and bought one of these NFTs. When did you buy your NFT for the Bored Ape Yacht Club?
I got in probably about 2.5 months ago. So it was how I looked at it was I missed the friends and family round, barely missed the seed round, and then kind of got in as the Series A was just kicking off.
And so you became aware of it, I assume, because everybody on Twitter was changing their avatars into these.
What happened? Yeah, I mean, simple. What happened was that I got obsessed with NBA Top Shot. Mm-hmm. I was onboarded into Top Shot in January, saw the light of what NFTs could do from a tech standpoint and from a access standpoint, and just got really, really, really into it. And I think Top Shot sort of was the enabler to a whole world of other things. And so a lot of folks from the Top Shot world jumped on Bored Apes as soon as that launched. And I had watched it. I hadn't minted another NFT yet, outside of the Top Shot stuff at that time when Bored Apes launched, but I was definitely paying attention to it and, was flirting with getting involved. And then ultimately when it was like, all right, this thing is for real, jumped on board.
How much did you pay for yours 6 weeks ago or 10 weeks ago, whenever you got it?
I paid 4.3 ETH for mine, which at that time ETH was hovering around a little over 2. So it was close to, it was like $8,000, $9,000. And my wife was like, "What are you doing? You're insane."
So you spent $9,000 on
Yes.
essentially what people would say is a GIF, just basically an image. But in fact, it's an NFT, which means it has some additional capabilities, including that you can trade it and that it's on the blockchain.
True. Yes, I did. And what I found interesting was, I think that the Beanie Baby comparison and the GIF comparison are all like, yes, you can make those comparisons. But I think when you start looking at it more as tokenized membership, when you own something, you get, different kinds of access and different types of perks. And when you start thinking about it outside of the JPEG is just the, your membership kind of ID.
So let's explain to people what that is. If you go to the website boardapeyachtclub.com, they explain that they made 10,000 of these Bored Apes, that they initially cost 0.08 Ethereum to buy, which was a couple $100. They then got sold out. They all moved to the secondary market. And one of the major secondary market for NFTs now is OpenSea. And they said the first thing you're going to be able to do with your membership is, and they said basically here, your Bored Ape doubles as your Yacht Club membership card and grants you access to the members only benefits. The first of which is access to the bathroom, a collective graffiti board. So you're going to be able to, as a grown man with a job and a wife, take your $9,000 NFT and go into a website and write graffiti on a website. Am I correct in summarizing the first benefit you will get from your NFT?
I guess so. True. Yes. I have never once been in the bathroom writing with graffiti there.
Got it. Now, the upside to this, having to explain to your wife that you spent $9,000 on a JPEG, is that these are worth, am I correct, 50 Ethereum now, and Ethereum is worth $3,000 or $4,000 as we're recording this on September 1st, 2021.
Accurate. Yeah. I mean, there's peaks and valleys, things go up and down. But this has settled into a really solid range between 40 and 60 right now.
Okay.
As a floor.
So it's worth over $150,000. So you're sitting there with an ape worth $150,000 that you paid $9,000 for. While there is a limit of supply with this, there is no telling when this could become a Beanie Baby and be completely worthless, or there could be other things that people move on to. So what is your thinking currently sitting on, a six-figure gain on your very savvy purchase?
My thinking is that the world of Web3, blockchain, and NFT coming together is transformative. And I'm on your show, so I'm thinking Bay Area, right? Bored Ape Yacht Club is one of the initial communities that has been built out around this monumental movement and change. And, if things keep going in this direction, it's going to be extremely valuable moving forward. And honestly, it's something that's been really, really fun to be a part of. I think that yes, it's an image. Yes, it's a JPEG. It's an NFT. All of that, but it's really been about the community and been about being a part of this explosive growth of a whole new way of crowdfunding startups. And Yuga Labs, who you mentioned, who is the parent company of Bored Apes, have been doing just an unbelievable job of adding value to their token holders. One of the things that happened this weekend, right? You mentioned there's only 10,000.
Yes. That's my understanding. Yeah.
Yes. There are 10,000 original Bored Apes. But the price has gotten so crazy and you wind up having Waka Flocka Flame and Steph Curry all joining the community, and the prices.
Steph Curry bought one for a reported 180,000.
Right. And so you're things keep going up, and it makes that barrier of entry more difficult. But if this thing really needs to scale, it's going to need to be more inclusive in some capacity, right? So what they did this past weekend, which set OpenSea and the world of Discord and Twitter on fire, was they airdropped, and this is a big part of what this world of NFTs and adding value is about, is they airdropped for free to each token holder of an original Bored Ape what they called a serum, which is a basically chemistry class where you got dropped one of three different options. One was a M1, which there were 8,000 of or something. And one was an M2 that there were about 2,000 of. And then one that there was a mega that there were 8 of. And
you randomly
serums,
got one of the mutant serums.
You randomly got one, right? And the night that I received my serum, I was lucky I got one of the M2s. I could have flipped that for 30 ETH that night. Right? Like $100,000 airdrop for free coming to my wallet.
What do you do with the serum? You gave it to your monkey and it evolved it, or it made more monkeys?
You give it to your monkey if you want to burn it and use it, and you create a whole new type of mutant monkey.
And your original monkey's gone.
Nope, your original monkey stays. Nothing happens to your original monkey. Wow.
So you get a second mutant monkey that you can then own or sell.
Correct. And this is not the first time they've done this. They've also given these things that were called doggos, which are companions for your apes. So those were airdrops for free that, are added value and free money, essentially, if you want to flip it.
From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. With Squarespace, you can blog and publish content, you can promote your business, you can announce upcoming events or special projects, and you can sell products and services of all kinds and more. No matter what the problem, Squarespace is the answer. They have beautiful templates by world-class designers. That's kind of where they got started and everybody noticed them. Like, whoa, look at these beautiful designs. But they've added so much functionality since that time, including powerful e-commerce functionality. And everything is optimized for mobile right out of the box. It's got built-in SEO, free and secure hosting, and of course, their 24/7 award-winning customer support. Back in 2020, we decided we'd create remotedemoday.com for founders to pitch thousands of angel investors over Zoom. Well, we purchased the domain name remotedemoday.com and had the site up and running within minutes. From idea to execution in just minutes, and incredible functionality so you can grow with them. And it's been a huge success for us so far. I mean, we've invested tens of millions of dollars. I kid you not. So go to squarespace.com/twist for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use offer code TWIST to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And congratulations to the team for going public on May 19th. What an amazing journey. It's been amazing to watch Squarespace grow and become such a vibrant company. And congratulations on that milestone. So they're making the early buyers rich by giving them new airdrops, free items and collectibles.
Yep.
So this would be as if you bought a pack of baseball cards or a comic book, if, I think we're both in the Gen X range. And then Marvel Comics said to you 2 months after buying your comic book, by the way, we're sending you a special edition of Spider-Man called Venom, and you get it for free. And we're going to send you a sidekick, and we're going to send you this Teen Titans comic book, and you just get free collectibles on top of it just because you were early to the comic book collecting club.
Exactly. And I think it's also about, they've been doing some really cool collaborations for merch and, things like that. They just did one with the hundreds that if you own an ape, you get access to. I've honestly, I'm a person who, I'm a collector. I like stuff. I'm sort of a hoarder-ish. But I also, I haven't bought more merch from a specific thing than I have for Bored Apes in the last, in the last 4 months. I've probably acquired 4 hoodies, 2 hats, 3 t-shirts. That hasn't happened since I was in high school and buying Blink-182 stuff,
So they're creating a brand of collectibles. And is this based on a specific artist's work? Because it is a unique art style. Is this like a specific art style that they are doing here that's appealing to people?
Well, I think the art is cool in general and people reacted well to it. I think you see a lot of these PFP profile picture type projects happen. Some of the art is really interesting. Some of the art is whatever. I think the apes were sort of first. Obviously, it all just follows in the footsteps of CryptoPunks. And I think for the OGs of, of blockchain and crypto and NFTs, CryptoPunks was it. But a lot of us who got in this year, we didn't have a chance to get involved in that from the beginning. So this is sort of our beginning. And I think that there's so much momentum and so much heat in this space right now that that collective force of people coming together has really, really, really helped transform this company, with the Bored Apes into the stratosphere. And I can't stress enough how good a job that Yuga Labs has done with this responsibility of all the money they've been making and then staying true to the people who believed in them. So it's been really interesting.
How are they making money? Did they just own a lot of the 10,000 and they just are now selling them in lots? Is that what the Sotheby's thing is? Or is that somebody reselling it and they just let all 10,000 go?
So they let all 10,000 go from the initial mint. So they sold out of the mint initially, which brings in, a significant amount of money. I mean, and then I have to look.
Well, it's like $250 per at the time. So 1,000 would be 250,000. So they made 2.5 million. But this lot that's being sold at Sotheby's is going to be worth for, 10 or 20 million. So they're making all of you rich, but it doesn't seem like they got rich.
Yeah, but they get a cut of every single resale. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of all these NFTs and smart contracts. It incentivizes everybody to play together and make money together. So when you're cut into every transaction,
do you know what they get of every transaction? 5%, 10%? What do they
it's
get?
either I'm not 100% sure, but it's one of 5% or 10%.
So that's brilliant. In other words, if they get everybody whipped into a frenzy about collecting these and participation in it, the more people who participate, it would be as if the Beanie Babies or Marvel Comics got included in the resale. You and I are fans of the Knicks. At some point, the Knicks said, we're going to start our own resale channel, or the NBA did, because they said, listen, all these, Ticketmasters and everybody has their own ticket resale. We don't get any of the aftermarket. And then they got a piece of it where if you were a season ticket holder, you could resell your tickets through the Knicks and the Knicks would get a cut of it. And now that's all memorialized in smart contracts.
Correct. Which is what should happen.
You would think the original and the artist would. So I've heard that people are doing fractional ownership of this.
Yep.
So have you thought about taking your NFT and then selling 10% of it, giving your wife back the $9,000 you spent on initially, and then giving her another 10 grand and taking her on vacation?
Well, the NFT trade has been wild. So we've already made up that money, no problem, in the last couple of months.
Oh, did you sell your serum and your second monkey?
I haven't sold my serum or my second monkey, but
did you use your serum?
I'm holding it right now.
So you didn't get a second monkey yet. You just have your serum and the potentiality of a second monkey.
I bought an M1 serum so that I could make a new monkey from my current monkey. So I have a mutant monkey and my current monkey and my M2 serum all sitting on ice, not looking for them to go anywhere anytime soon. But you find some liquidity elsewhere in NFTs that you don't care as much about. You buy those, sell those at higher, so you keep stacking your ETH to play the game. So, which is just all that this whole thing is. It's just, there's a lot of game theory in all.
Yeah, what was the game theory here now, which is, I would guess, this is like, there's a poker game you play that was called Guts, which is like, who can hold on to their chip the longest? It was like a crazy game I played once in New York, where if you had it, you would decide to put a chip in your hand. Everybody would put their hands out. You put your hand behind your back. You decide if you're going to put a chip and play your cards. If you have the chip in your hand, you have guts and you have to match the pot. If you don't have the chip in your hands, you're folding. And I got into this one time, and I happened to have a good hand, and I won like $6,000 because we had to match the pot like 3 times. It starts out with everybody's got $100 in the pot. It gets quickly insane. But this is like the prisoner's dilemma. Whoever gets off first and gets the money. But then if you were to sell and take your couple of $100,000 and put a down payment on an apartment or a second home, or I don't know what station you're at in life, you seem pretty successful, but then you would feel really stupid if it goes to $1 million.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's all about, a lot of the holders from CryptoPunks are kicking themselves for getting rid of their punks, right? And if history repeats itself, right? And this is one of the most important projects that, is on chain with NFTs. then, I'm in the camp of hold and see where it goes. I mean, look, this weekend alone, we're talking about money, right? Farouk, who's a guy that's been an unbelievable spokesperson for NFTs and has built a brand on Clubhouse and Twitter. He sent a tweet out on Saturday night that Bored Apes, for the mutant drop in 1 hour, sold 92 million US dollars worth of mutants. 92 million US dollars worth of mutants.
Wow. So
Yes.
at any time, they can basically gift their early members with $100 million or more, because that was only what
that's not
traded.
a gift. So that was, so they did the serums; those were free. But in addition, they also dropped a whole new version of apes. They dropped 10,000 mutant apes, right? Which had a lower price point.
What did those mutant apes go for?
I think it was like 2.5 or 3 ETH each. As
so they got that
cost.
Money. So they got 10,000 per.
Exactly. They get all that money, and then they also get a chunk of all that secondary action that just goes nuclear as well.
Oh my Lord. So they just printed $100 million.
Correct. Yes. Like, I mean,
what is happening in the world?
The approximate number that Farouk said was $163 million in that one day, because of the secondary action that were already happening on OpenSea across mutants and apes too.
So 10,000 people came in and paid $10,000 each to be part of this club. Some people, I guess, cynically would say multi-level marketing type endeavor. I guess collectibles would be it. What do you in your heart of hearts look at this as? Like as gambling or collecting or something new? All around the world, tech companies are innovating and driving returns for investors. Ourcrowd analyzes companies across the global private market, selects those with the greatest growth potential, and brings them to you. Ourcrowd's companies range from personalized medicine to cybersecurity to robotics to quantum computing and more. In state-of-the-art labs, startup garages, and anywhere in between, Ourcrowd is identifying innovators so you can invest when growth potential is greatest, early in the life of the startup. Ourcrowd's accredited investors have already invested over $1 billion in growing tech companies, and many of their members have benefited from their 46 IPOs or exits. Now you can truly diversify your portfolio by investing early in innovative private market companies at Ourcrowd. So join the fastest growing venture capital investment community at ourcrowd.com/twist. Once again, ourcrowd.com/twist to join for free. You're a sneakerhead, right?
I am.
Yeah. But sneakers never got crazy like this, right? You don't have an example of your sneakers going.
Well, so what's interesting is that, as a person who's been into sneakers for many, many years, my now most cherished sneaker is not a Nike somehow, even though I am a Nike fanboy and collector, is an Artifact sneaker collaboration with a guy named Jeff Staple, who is an amazing New York streetwear designer. That it was his first NFT, and it was a digital sneaker that you could then forge now into a physical. But that digital sneaker that I paid $500 for 4 months ago, where I was like, I am feeling this, like there's something going on here that just tells me this is right. That thing right this second is worth almost $30,000.
Oh my Lord.
It's just insane. So, I mean, obviously, there's certainly a bubble happening right now, but it's not necessarily a bubble that's going to burst. People are coming into this space in droves. It's really interesting. It's really fun. I think more than anything, I think it's about community membership. And like, when you think about Yuga Labs as a startup, it's a whole different way. Like, they're never going to have to raise money institutionally or traditionally. Their community is funding them. So it's just different and interesting.
It's crazy in that way. When you think about it, and I just had one of these projects on that was doing music, and they raised hundreds of millions of dollars, put it into a project somewhere in South or Central America. Nobody knows who's in charge of the project. They all are undisclosed. I mean, I wonder what the tax treatment of this is going to wind up being. When you sell it, it's a capital gains because it's art, I guess. It gets treated like that. I wonder what the Bored Apes company, Yuga Labs, I guess, it's not a security because you're not buying equity in the company. You're buying a piece of art. It's really interesting. But the art enables you to do something.
Yep. It's basically your access pass. Imagine if Soho House had built out like a whole different structure of integrations and events and free things from their partners and stuff like that. It's sort of like, that's how I, as a, start thinking about it. Not that it's Soho House, but it's sort of just like this club that you can get into and be a part of. And, I think the community element of this can't be,
where does the community where does it manifest itself? In Clubhouse rooms, on Twitter? Mm-hmm. Is there like a Slack or something like that where people are hanging out?
It's all Discord and Twitter. So the Discord is where each one of these projects has their own Discord, and these things. There's also a bunch of private Discords that are for smaller groups of people like-minded who meet on Twitter. But it's really like Twitter is driving a lot of the conversation here, and Discord is where it gets one layer deeper. And there's some really, really heady and interesting things going on. And just like any thing where everybody and their mother gets involved, there's going to be a lot of bad crap, but there's also some stuff that's really, really, really great and interesting.
Where is this going? Tell me, what are people talking about? What do they think the future of it is? Because when you have something that captures the imagination like this has, it's going to be a lot of, people are going to have a lot of ideas. And you mentioned there could be some downsides. So unpack that for me. Upside and downside. I
think, look, the downside is that a lot of people lose a lot of money because there are a lot of people who are quote unquote investors now and entrepreneurs putting their money in things, but they don't know how to properly, figure out whether that's a good investment or not. And they're just kind of going by what other people say and following these, like, there's so much of what they call the pump and dumps where people, just really like all get together to try and drive up the price. And then it falls and to nowhere because there's nothing structurally keeping it up because there's
coordinated insiders who got in early, pumping something up, and then they're secretly liquidating.
So that's like, there's going to be a lot of people who lose a lot of money that way. But if you're strategic and smart, and you find the real entrepreneurs in the space, the same way folks like you have found, other types of businesses in the past as Web 1, 2 evolved and changed the world, right? Like, I think that's where it's at. And so those people are really pushing the boundaries of how company structures are owned. And I think that just incentivizes a whole different form of collaboration between creator and community that we haven't seen before. And I didn't start thinking about.
I think is interesting. I look at it and I think, wow, this to me is like this new form of patronage for artists. So I do think that this one is off the rails, and like probably giving one artist $100 million or hundreds of millions of dollars is probably unnecessary. But if this was a collection of artists and you thought, gee, people are making great art in the world, because this is one that I find the artwork appealing. Like, I would actually put one of these apes on my wall as a piece of art because I think it's kind of funky and cool, and it kind of is pleasing to me aesthetically. But artists had no way to get money or to build an audience. They were disintermediated through galleries, and there were these gatekeepers. Now, it would be super interesting if somebody could create their own auction house like Christie's that recruited artists and did all this for them or with them. I wonder if anybody's done that startup before. Well, maybe you and I should quit and do this. Like, it would be an interesting idea, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, that's pretty much, there's a lot of that's been going on, not on that level, right? I think Christie's and Sotheby's have smartly gotten involved pretty early to sort of legitimize a lot of what's going on. But, places like Super Rare and Nifty Gateway have been curating artists and being a platform to build community around, to like hand pick and say, hey, these people are great. We think you should know about them. And a lot of people's careers have taken off thanks to, their success they've had on those types of platforms. And one example just of like a really interesting project that is going on is a guy named Micah Johnson, who, he's a former professional baseball player turned artist. He was on the Chicago White Sox. He has a character called Aku. And he is basically making a movie about Aku. He talks about how it was like his niece came up to him and was like, can astronauts be black? And the whole concept of what he's doing is building a film and a persona around this character, Aku. And he really believes that like this could
Oh, wow.
be.
So it's been optioned for a film and TV. The Black astronaut Aku becomes first NFT. Oh my God, that's brilliant.
So what he's doing is releasing a series of 10 NFTs that are videos, right? But it's basically your way of supporting his project, right? And so he is funding via community for his movie that he can then go
it's
and
the new
offer
Kickstarter.
Out.
This is the new Kickstarter Indiegogo. It just clicked for me.
It's genius. Like there's some really genius. Interesting things. So J. Kyle, you should get a ape. You should buy one right now while we're on the show. You should come and hop and be a part of this thing.
I should spend $150,000 on a monkey?
What? You got it? Come on, let's go.
No. Give me the next one. Give me the next one I can buy into. I want to be on the ground floor of the next one.
Okay.
Listen, you're now a friend of the show, Andrew, and you're a foodie, right? And a Nick fan.
Well, I would never qualify myself using the F word because we're come on. I'm an enthusiast,
okay.
But yes, and I'm a huge Knicks fan.
All right. So I'm a huge diehard Knicks fan for a long time. I actually came out for the playoff games, which was unbelievable. It was like the first.
Those were some of the best moments. Truly,
were you at the Garden those 2 games?
I was at both of those first 2 games.
God. It was incredible, right? Like to be vaccinated and have no mask and screaming. Dude, Trae Young is killing me, but we made such great moves. I mean, how excited are you for 33 days from now? When we see Knicks playing basketball, Fournier and Kemba and our original crew locked in.
I just can't believe and very excited about the fact that we can sit here and be excited about Knicks basketball.
It's going to be it's going to be the greatest. I mean, I'm putting us at 45 wins. I think we'll be 5th or 6th seed. I think we got a shot at getting to the second round. And you got to think Dame and other people are looking at this progress and going, that's a pretty good squad. Playing in New York. It's electric. All right, listen, great to meet you. Thanks for educating us. And let's hang soon. Maybe when the season starts, we'll get a meal and then go catch a Knick game.
Sounds good, man.
All right, man. DM me when you got the next one you think is going to be hot, and then I'll buy into it. I'll get like 10 FFTs or something.
All right, we can do a little side thing. I can give you a whole bunch of things that are interesting.
Slide into my DMs. I got you. I'm following you now.
Well, we're gonna get you on an ape though.
Get me on the next thing. Or somebody wants to get me in on the ape thing at a good price. Let me know. All right, talk to you soon. Cheers. What would you do with an extra 15 hours every week? For a lot of leaders, there's a moment where you realize that you are in your own way. Delegating to someone can be intimidating, especially if you don't know how to do it, right? And that's exactly where Belay comes in. Belay wants to help business leaders by revolutionizing productivity with their virtual assistant services. Imagine how your leadership could transform if you didn't have to worry about reading every email and scheduling every call yourself. And you had more time, energy, and focus to work on things that can 10x your business. Working with SMBs is Belay's specialty, but they also service C-suite executives for Maui Jim, Chick-fil-A, and more. You'll get a free copy of Rise Up and Lead Well, How Leveraging an Assistant Will Change Your Life and Maximize Your Time. It's written by Belay's CEO, Trisha Shortino. So here's your call to action. Get back to focusing on what matters, growing your business, and leave the rest to Belay. Just text TWIST to 55123 for your free copy of Rise Up and Lead Well today. Just text TWIST to 55123 for your free copy of Rise Up and Lead Well. Okay, and now here is Rachel's interview with Nicole from Harlem VC and how she broke in.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Nicole. This was really exciting for me. So let me get this straight. You're a senior associate at Harlem Capital, and you focus on deal sourcing, due diligence, and platform development. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So can you break down for the audience what Harlem VC is and maybe your guys' mission?
Sure. And thanks for reaching out and having me on the show. I'm super excited to do this today. So Harlem Capital is a diversity-focused early-stage fund. We invest in women and people of color. And we just started investing out of our Fund 2 of $134 million after wrapping up our Fund 1 of $40 million earlier this year. And so we invest at the seed stage across all sectors. We write checks of about $750K to $2 million for 10% plus ownership. And as a firm, our overall mission is to change the face of entrepreneurship by investing in 1,000 diverse founders over 20 years. And our current count is 40 of that 1,000. So we're just getting started, but we are looking for people to join our journey.
That's awesome. Well, you got to start somewhere, and it's great that you guys are really being the change. That's incredible, too, that you guys are investing in those groups. I wasn't super aware of the lack of diversity in venture capital until I read The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates. And I actually tweeted about it because I was so shocked. Before coming to this team at launch, I actually did a venture capital fellowship, and all the partners were men. And we did have one person of color as our partner, but we didn't really invest in a ton of women. And there was only one person that I really stuck out to me as being a female founder that I really connected to. And when I read this statistic, it just totally brought into perspective how important it is to have like people like you and the whole Harlem team. And the statistic was only 2% of VC partners are women, and only 2% of VC money is going to women-founded ventures. And it does note that women of color are severely represented amongst even that percentage. So you guys are killing it. That's really awesome. And I'm super happy that we had somebody on the show that is advocating for those things. So before Harlem VC, what was your journey?
Yeah, so my story before Harlem Capital. So I'll take you back to the very beginning. So I was born and raised on Long Island. I spent my entire life there until I moved into New York City to attend Columbia University. And it was there that I really got to know myself and realized what I was interested in and where I wanted my career to go. And it became actually quite apparent that I was not a reading and writing person. Like, my brain did not work that way. I was far more of the numbers and math person. And I like to use the analogy that give me a 1-page paper and I would be in the library like all night crying. But if you gave me a 10-page problem set, I would be like calm, cool, collected. And so obviously learning that, I realized I should major in something that caters to me. And I ended up majoring in econ math. And with that major being in New York City, I ended up taking the finance path, right? So my junior summer at Columbia, I interned in investment banking and subsequently signed to join full-time. And so I joined post-grad. I joined RBC Capital Markets in the TMT group, Tech, Media, and Telecom. And I spent 4 years there, actually, in banking, which was quite a long time. And I went analyst to associate there, and I realized, I liked the work within finance, but I didn't like the culture or the mission. And so that's sort of what led me right into Harlem Capital.
That's awesome. So I definitely feel like there are multiple paths into VC. A lot of people that I know were previous founders or like yourself were in that banking situation. But for you, I know is a little bit different, the actual job process. And this is actually how we ended up finding you, which was on Twitter. And I'm going to ask Justin or whoever's editing this video to throw up this screenshot because I think it's incredibly interesting. You posted a tweet of 2 slideshows, and the tweet said, "Breaking into VC is hard. Finding ways to differentiate yourself is hard. When I was looking to break in, I knew Harlem Capital was where I wanted to be. But how did I do it? I created a presentation showing HCP exactly where I could add value on day one, some snippets below." And then you included those 2 presentation slides. And I thought that was awesome. Can you talk to me, first off, explain why it's really hard to get a job in VC to the audience?
Yeah, so I think for me, I wanted to break into VC, for a couple of reasons, which I can imagine that some people would relate to this as well. And, coming from a banking background, a lot of people put blinders on, as I like to say, and take the traditional finance path without ever sort of stopping to think what they actually wanted to do. So, they would go investment banking to private equity into business school. And when I was in that position, I wanted to be intentional about my career. I did not want to go into a career that, I wasn't passionate about. And in VC, a lot of people love what they do. They're super passionate, right? Founders are building something that they believe in, and investors want to fund them, right? And so everyone wakes up wanting to do their job. And, I think in a lot of industries, that's not the case, right? And, especially in banking, I mean, it's not always the case, but I doubt most bankers truly love what they do. And so, for me, I came across Harlem Capital on LinkedIn. And one of my one of my connections one day randomly liked the announcement of their Fund One close. And I remember reading the article and becoming completely obsessed with the firm and the mission. It was like in that moment, I realized that's what I wanted to do. Everything seemed to align for me. Doing VC at Harlem Capital married like two things that I was super passionate about, which was finance, which can be quite soulless, unfortunately, and making an impact, investing in diverse founders. So it gave me the best of both worlds. And so, for me, like other people, I think they just want to be in an industry that is exciting, right? And VC is the, epitome of exciting. You're building the next big companies, right? You're building the next Uber, Lyft, Slack. And so I think that's probably why it makes it hard, right? For a lot of people to break in, is there's more demand than there is jobs. And so that's my guess as to why it's so difficult to break in.
So let me get this straight. Did you see the LinkedIn job posting and then just send them these presentation? Or was it something like you slid into someone's DMs and sent them to him? We had the Harlem Capital founder on, actually, Henri Pierre-Jacques, on episode 1183, which was super cool to have on. And that was the first time I heard about Harlem Capital. So did you send him your presentation on Twitter or something?
No. So what ended up happening is after I saw the LinkedIn post and became completely obsessed, I realized that I wanted to be there. And they offer a pretty extensive internship program and fellowship program. And so I started doing tons of research on VC, started doing tons of research about Harlem Capital, and reached out to previous interns to see their experience. And I applied for the internship, and I fortunately was able to get into the internship, their summer 2020 cohort. And so it was there that I spent 10 weeks doing the internship. And then I went into a 10-week fellowship with them in the fall of 2020. And what ended up happening is, I realized that I was in love with Harlem Capital and the mission. I truly wanted to be there. And during Harlem Capital does a pretty extensive review process as well, feedback process for their interns. And so we have a midterm feedback and final feedback. And so for my fellowship, I had been there for, whatever it was, 15 weeks. And I was like, I'm going to create a presentation to show them exactly why they should hire me, prove to them that I am the person that should be in this position. And I decided I was going to send it during my midterm feedback. And so I sent it to Henri because he was my pairing at the time for the internship, or the fellowship rather. And I said, along with the midterm feedback, I would like to discuss this presentation on why you should hire me full time. So that's how that sort of went down. And I'm happy to, go into the presentation more and give the listeners a bit more info on that.
Yeah, I guess you have also been kind of noting on different ways to kind of break into VC. And I think that Jason would love to hear more about that as well. What struggles have you seen in the industry in terms of applying and gaining these almost entry-level positions into venture capital? You did mention them in two of your other tweets, breaking into VC tip number 3 and breaking into VC tip number 2. But I'd love to hear more on that as well.
So I think, VC is a network game, right? And so the skill that you should have is just learning to network. Like the single most important thing is networking. And so I think gaining those entry-level positions is difficult because you're not established within the VC industry. And so within VC, you utilize your community for everything from sourcing a deal to diligence to port go help to hiring and everything in between. And so the bigger your network is, the easier being in VC will be and getting a job in VC. And unfortunately, in the early days of your career, you just don't have those networks built out. And, my advice to anybody who wants to get into the industry is, start building that network before you land a job in VC. And probably that networking will get you the entry-level job into VC, but you have to be willing to put the time in. And, I like to say, remember, the industry is small and every interaction is a chance to create a new relationship, and you have to be intentional about it. And so I think that was probably the hardest thing for me as well, breaking in is, I had the skills to do it, but did I have the right people I could contact? Did I know, who I could go to diligence a deal or where I could source a deal? And so network, everything is about networking and community. And as, an entry level investor, that's difficult. And so you have to build up sort of that community.
It's so funny because in college, you learn how to write a great resume, an awesome cover letter, but there's not an entire class on networking. And honestly, every job I've gotten out of college so far has not been on my resume or on a CV or anything like that. I agree. It's all about networking. You also mentioned operating like a VC in your tip number 2 tweet that I saw. What does it mean to operate like a VC?
Yeah, so this is interesting. And one way that I think people could stand out in interviews and networking is, people are taking the time, people in VC are taking the time to network with you, which is great, but you need to add some sort of value, right? If you operate like you're in VC already by understanding their investment thesis, deals that they like, things that they like to see, you can get on the phone with them, not only ask them questions about VC and themselves, but you can also say, also, here's a company I think you should look at. I've been following it for 3 months. I love the founder. Let me send you a bit about it and tell you why I have conviction on this deal, right? And so that's what I mean by operating like you're in VC already, right? If you were in an investing position, you would do that, right? That's how a lot of networking calls go, right? You have a conversation, you talk about the market, you talk about what you're up to, what you're interested in, and then you share some deals, right? And you say, oh, by the way, I know your thesis, and here's who's raising, right? So making sure that you are a part of the industry already is a way that you can just differentiate yourself, and adding value to that person, they'll remember you, right? It's not just another networking call. It's, wow, this person shared a deal that I'm going to take a look at.
Yeah. What are the top skills that you have that you think really help add value to Harlem Capital?
Yeah. So I think, every VC needs to be curious, right? Every investor needs to be curious. And I'm an incredibly curious person, and I'm a people person, right? I love chatting to people. And so I think being curious and being able to network, like I said, add value to any VC firm. And I believe that I have those skills. And so I think I'm able to provide, not only those skills, but a different perspective as well to Harlem Capital. And in my presentation, actually, I was saying to them, I showed them where I thought they had gaps in their firm and how my past experience and my lived experience could fill those gaps. And one of them was that I am Latina and I identify as LGBTQ. And so for me, my perspective on things are different than the rest of the firm. And not only that, I can diversify your sourcing funnel, right? Using my network, which is unique to me. And so I think, on top of the traditional skills of being, curious and love networking, bringing my lived experience and how I identify to the table provides a different perspective as well.
It's great that you put that in your presentation too, because I don't necessarily think those things would have come up in a traditional interview. And especially in interviews like venture capital, where I've seen a lot of things like case studies or show us examples of your work. I feel like it's kind of difficult to kind of incorporate your personal life within that process. So that was really cool being able to see that. Do you have any other advice for the audience on hard skills that they should know before they want to break into venture capital? And I know that's really difficult because I feel like venture capital is like a giant umbrella of things, and you already have given us 2 awesome things. But is there anything specifically like financial modeling or anything like that you think would be really beneficial?
Yeah, so I think it depends, right? Because as you say, VC is broad, right? No one VC firm is the same. In that, you have early stage funds, you have industry agnostic firms, sector specific firms, geographic focused firms. And so what I would say is before you can say the skills that you need to jump into the industry, you need to figure out your niche, right? Are you interested in early stage agnostic firms? Because that skill set is going to be slightly different than if you wanted to invest in, Series B biotech companies, right? And so what I would say is the first step is figuring out where your interests lie. And once you figure that out, then you can cater the skills that you learn. I think from a fundamental level, early stage, you don't need as much financial modeling. But if you were to go to that Series B, you need that financial modeling, right? But what I would say from fundamental standpoint is you need to understand venture math. You need to understand, dilution. You need to understand ownership. You need to understand all of those basic things within VC to be able to understand investments, to see what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what fits into an investment thesis. And if you don't have those basics, it might be more difficult for you within the industry.
I completely agree. And actually, when I was first interested in venture capital, I got the book from my mentor, The Secrets of Steinthal, which is about A16Z. But I honestly, the book was pretty dense, didn't read it all. But at the end of the book, there's a glossary. And I used the glossary kind of like a dictionary for venture capital. So if anybody's listening to this and is really struggling with the acronyms, trust me, you have to check that out and Investopedia. They were my absolute best friends. It's great that you brought that up. Do you see a big difference between maybe the Gen Z versus millennial investors that are coming into this space? Because I feel like venture capital as of late has really blown up. As we've seen, there's been that incredible amount of investments, especially over the past year.
Yeah, you're saying, is there a difference between Gen Z and millennial investing?
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely think there is. One thing that I notice is that Gen Z is using social media a lot more. Right? Twitter has blown up in the VC industry. And not only, as a way to get yourself known, but also for business advice, for learning more about industries, for all things VC. And I think Gen Z has really captured that within social media. So I'd say that's one thing that I think is different. Social media is a strategy, not, it's not frowned upon. And I think in finance, a lot of people don't like to be in the limelight like that. But Gen Z has really thought this is a strategy and this will help me grow as a person. And then I think just in general, Gen Z has had a big effect on industries, right? It's a generation that is involved. And so, you look at all the different social apps that are blowing up and everything Gen Z touches, right, is changed. And they just have a different mindset. Right? They just have a different life mindset, investing mindset. What they care about is different. And so I think they're just touching every industry. And so it's changing the investment landscape.
It's funny because as a Gen Z growing up, my parents were like, don't post too much of your life on the internet. And now that I've kind of switched into this space, we're like, have opinions on the internet. Like, how do we know what you're interested in or what you stand for if you don't? And I think that's a huge differentiator between, you can always tell when someone maybe isn't that hip with social media or isn't a Gen Z / early millennial with how they interact on Twitter. So I think that's definitely a great piece of advice. And even here at This Week in Startups, I've helped the team start a TikTok page. And it's been an interesting experience, but it's so important to branch out on that platform, on any platform, especially in terms of kind of creating a consistent pipeline. Like, why not make your voice heard to get the most amount of people to hear about you?
Definitely. I mean, your network is just 10 times through social media, right? And like, even I'm on this podcast because of social media, right? So your reach is extended far more than you could ever imagine through social media. I mean, at Harlem Capital, we did an analysis of our intern pool, and of the 6,000 applications that we've gotten, 10% are international, and we don't even do international deals yet. So like, it just goes to show you the power of social media and the reach that you're getting there, right? So it's incredible. And I think Gen Z has realized that and has really, held on to it.
So to kind of close now and to continue the conversation about making your voice heard, especially around the world through way of social media, I'd love to conclude with your podcast that I saw, the More Equity podcast from Harlem Capital. I believe you host it, correct?
Yes.
That's awesome.
With Gabby Cazot on my team.
That's so cool. So what are the goals there for that podcast?
It's honestly just so Harlem Capital's mission is to change the face of entrepreneurship. But in order to change the face of entrepreneurship, we have to change we have to change the face of investing as well, right? We need people to invest in things that they identify with. So we need diverse investors. And so, like I said, we have an extensive intern program. We've gotten over 6,000 applications, and we can't give all of those diverse individuals a spot at Harlem Capital, but we want to make sure that they are in the VC ecosystem. And they've historically and systemically have been pushed out. And so what we're trying to do is demystify VC, right? Demystify the interview process, get those diverse people in the doors so that we can not only, change the face of entrepreneurship, but change the face of investing. And I think, Harlem Capital, we're growing, but we need help, right? We can't change the whole ecosystem. And a small part in doing that is by getting, the diverse candidates that we get in the doors of other VCs. And so that podcast, the goal was for people who are interviewing and don't know where to start, there's a start, right? And you can look at all the resources we cite, get on Twitter. And so that was the goal.
That's awesome. How many episodes are you in right now? How many podcast episodes have you done so far?
So I don't typically host the More Equity podcast. I've done a season with Gabby and Kelly, where Kelly has left the firm now, but the two senior associates at the firm, I interviewed them, and then I did the Demystifying VC. And hopefully we'll be on some more as we roll out new seasons.
That's awesome. I cannot wait to listen to that. And I'm also looking forward to re-listening to Jason's talk with the Harlem Capital founder on episode 1183. I'm just going to repeat that again for everybody because it was super awesome to hear about you guys. Thank you so much for being on. I think this conversation is going to be really beneficial for anybody else looking to break into venture capital, especially with how things have been changing so quickly with the amount of investments increasing and social media really taking over the space. Thank you so much. Is there anywhere people can find you? Maybe your Instagram handle or your Twitter handle?
Yeah. So if you can find me on Twitter at Nick_DeTommaso. So that's NIC for Nick. And on LinkedIn. If you are looking to break into VC, I am happy to be an advocate for you. So please reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on, Nicole.